Look out! Oh!
We love that Danhausen, don't we? But when you learn the history of this spooky man of mystery, you may grow to appreciate the tooth-obsessed wrestler even more. Or be cursed. Danhausen doesn't often break character, but he has done a few interviews as his non-wrestling self, Donovan Danhausen, to discuss the evolution of his alter ego. Speaking with Paste, he listed a ton of influences that helped him to shape his persona, including the actor who played Count Orlok in the 1922 film Nosferatu. He said, "Definitely just The Simpsons in general. The idea of not necessarily Nosferatu itself, but the idea of Max Schreck thinking he was a vampire that inspired it. What We Do in the Shadows, definitely." He went on to list Shaun of the Dead, Army of Darkness, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and even the villainous Monarch from the Adult Swim animated series The Venture Brothers as influences. Former late-night host and Simpsons writer Conan O'Brien is also a major influence on the Danhausen character. Danhausen told Paste, "Conan O'Brien I always cite as one of my main inspirations. Just his style of comedy is not vulgar. It's very digestible for everybody." Danhausen actually got the opportunity to talk with O'Brien about his character on the podcast Conan O'Brien Needs a Fan.
You're sort of demonic looking.
If Conan O'Brien was possessed by a demon, that's what it gets described as.
In another out-of-character interview with Chris Van Vliet, Danhausen discussed a low point in his wrestling career. After performing as himself and as Kid Gorgeous, a reference to a Simpsons episode about boxing, at the beginning of his pro wrestling journey, Danhausen explained that his persona simply didn't land. He said he got opportunities to wrestle Johnny Gargano and Ricochet, but
I can have good matches with those guys because they're amazing, but no one cares because I'm just another dude.
After moving to Florida to pursue more wrestling opportunities, he returned to his home state of Michigan to perform almost weekly. But Danhausen didn't feel he was making any progress. He said, "It got to a point where I was like, I'm gonna quit because this sucks." He made the decision to give wrestling one more chance, but as a character he wanted to be rather than one promoters gave him to play. The freedom allowed Danhausen to turn into one of the more unique characters in this generation of professional wrestlers. Despite Danhausen's supernatural look and very nice, very evil character traits, the wrestler is still rooted in reality. Danhausen doesn't control the power in the arena or conjure flames that erupt from the ring posts. Yes, he puts teeth in his opponents' mouths, but he considers it a legal way to cheat because teeth are already in someone's mouth. Since he's never really had to explain the character's lore, Danhausen can keep fans guessing as to his nature, whether it be demonic, a sign of instability, or just a cunning ruse to make, as he would say, monies. Danhausen told Van Vliet that his catchphrase, "very nice, very evil," is a reference to cult leaders and how one would have to be very nice to get people to join their cult. His powers of hypnosis are simply crowd energy fueling his excitement, and his aversion to swearing is simply him not wanting to be pulled off the air. He said of his character,
He wants to take over television, he wants to take over the world, he wants to be on as many TVs as possible, and if someone's swearing, we'll probably get taken off the air, it'll get cut.
Love that Danhausen isn't just a catchphrase. There are dozens of entertainers and professional wrestlers who embody that statement, praising the weird demon character and joining him in his many online adventures. Matt Cardona, formerly WWE's Zack Ryder and more recently a GCW standout, had high praise for the demonic star during a panel at the C2E2 convention in Chicago.
At these conventions, he's always killing it, always a huge line.
Yeah.
And like he appeals to so many different people and he's unique.
Danhausen has even impressed veteran William Regal. Speaking with Bleacher Report, Regal said Danhausen had figured it out and added, "I'm more than happy to put his stuff over." Danhausen has been a guest on podcasts hosted by everyone from Chris Jericho, Matt Hardy, and Renee Paquette. CM Punk and Kenta have both endorsed Danhausen using the go-to-sleep finisher while also throwing a little shade at one another. He tried authentic tacos for the first time with former AEW Women's Champ Thunder Rosa for her taco vlog. Bray Wyatt even proposed a partnership when it was suggested on Twitter that a match between the two could draw dollars. Wyatt simply replied, "We should unite instead. How very evil of us."
They're chanting teeth. They're chanting teeth, and Nick Corrado gets a mouthful.
Danhausen's initial outings were much more horror-based than the lovable weirdo we mostly see now. He told GameSpot he dropped his first name at the suggestion of GCW's Effie. He suggested my last name. It stands out, but it's just a German last name and goes with the weird aesthetic I have going on. In the first vignettes he posted to his YouTube channel, Danhausen AD was the representation of Danhausen after death, a new creation after he stopped wrestling as Donovan Danhausen. In those videos, Danhausen's look and mannerisms evoke the 1920 German silent horror film The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, but Danhausen felt the horror approach was too niche for wrestling fans. Danhausen credits working with Effie in their tag team, Gatanic Panic, for allowing him the creative freedom to further develop his personality. That said, the horror occasionally comes back. After a loss on AEW Dark Elevation, a more brutal and violent version of the character arrived to help the best friends on the 2022 Full Gear buy-in, attacking QT Marshall and the Factory with a spike and teeth, the seeming return of Danhausen AD. We haven't seen much of that darker side of the character since that appearance, but Danhausen has plenty of brutal moves we haven't yet seen in his AEW run. Danhausen's look is fairly consistent, a bright white base with black and red highlights. This wasn't always the case though. As Danhausen's character evolved, so too did his makeup, and the inspirations for it. As he told Sean X-Pac Waltman on the Pro Wrestling for Life podcast, it actually started with the Halloween show in Tennessee.
I did They Live makeup, so I did like the blue with the little red spots, everything, the ghouls.
He went on to use the cover of the band Converge's album, Jane Doe, as inspiration for the makeup next, but realized he was using other people's ideas and wanted to do his own thing. He credits an appearance he and his wife made at Detroit's Theater Bazaar as inspiration for his current iconic look. I had done Pazuzu from The Exorcist, just that creepy face. I had done that makeup, and that's how I went to this Halloween party. And I was like, oh, this one's kinda cool, and also, I kinda morphed this into my own thing. After Danhausen appeared on Conan O'Brien's podcast, Rootless Coffee Co. reached out to their fellow Michigan native with a sample of their coffee. Danhausen made an unboxing video of the product, enjoyed it, and ended up collaborating with Rootless on his own blend of energy beans named Danhausen Coffeehausen. The collaboration went well for Danhausen, as well as Rootless, who wrote on their blog, Danhausen Coffeehausen surpassed our best month of sales in a single day. Rootless recruited artist Craig Horkey to design the bag, and the tag team of Danhausen and Rootless was born. Rootless has gone on to add a second Danhausen blend, Danhausen Dark, and also have collaborated with wrestling legend Ricky Morton to make Rock and Roll Espresso, and Hey EW host RJ City on his blend, High Anxiety. One key move that helps Danhausen overcome his foes and win over fans is his dramatic curse, a gesture that almost always leaves them distracted, disoriented, and generally at the mercy of Danhausen or his allies. In an in-character interview with What Culture Wrestling, Danhausen explained,
Danhausen points at them sometimes, and it seems like bad things happen to them, and I hope it happens. But but neither here nor there. It seems like it works.
The supernatural aspect of these curses is suspect at best, but their origin is one based on a very real annoyance. In an interview with horror website Fangoria, Danhausen was asked to wrap up his interview with what he'd like the readers to know about him. He said, "You must help by watching and telling people to love that Danhausen, or be cursed. It's like those old emails that would get sent to you and say, send these to 10 people, otherwise you will have 10 years of bad luck." That's where Danhausen got the idea of cursing people. In many of his interviews, Danhausen speaks in front of a wall of action figures he's collected. He's actually spent a lot of time building that collection, though he stopped for a while. On the AEW Unrestricted podcast, Danhausen blamed a fellow AEW star for his return to the habit. Danhausen used to collect superhero toys, and then Danhausen got out of it, and then he got back into Marvel Legends, which is actually thanks to one Ethan Page. Danhausen said he initially only got back into collecting Spider-Man figures, but Page kept showing him new figures from other lines, and Danhausen would have to buy those as well. When asked if he has a favorite figure, Danhausen replied, Danhausen has a Sentinel Marvel Legend that's about 3.5 feet tall. On one of his YouTube videos, Danhausen revealed that a Batman the Animated Series Holiday Joker figure was the first he ever bought. He intended for that to be the only one.
Lo and behold, Danhausen waited until they all cost a bejesus amount, and then he decided to collect them.
Danhausen is married to burlesque dancer Lauren Giles, stage name Lulu La Duchesse de Riere, and he's stepdad to Giles' daughter. Danhausen told Renee Paquette the story of their courtship on her podcast, The Sessions. Giles was doing the Theater Bazaar show in Detroit, and Danhausen was, quote, just rummaging about when they met. She messaged him on Instagram, but he thought she might be a bot or spam. They reconnected, and she asked him to drive up to Montreal, her hometown, to meet her there. He declined, and Paquette wondered why.
You ever see that movie, So I Married an Axe Murderer?
However, good sense prevailed, and the pair did end up meeting in Michigan. Their first date consisted of the pair going to the Detroit Historical Museum, Danhausen said. We looked at bones, there were skeleton bones. We went to a barbecue place because that's what Danhausen heard regular humans like to eat. The two began a romance that led to their marriage in 2018. Giles won the New Orleans Burlesque Festival's title of Queen of Burlesque that same year, making her the first Canadian to hold that title. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Giles set up online burlesque shows and opened Sky Woman Creations, an Instagram shop for her unique clothing and jewelry. From the beginning, Danhausen has embraced YouTube to share the backstory of his character. He's faced some major career setbacks, namely his broken leg on Halloween of 2021, just after he signed with Ring of Honor. And the pandemic set everyone back, but Danhausen used this online presence to get more opportunities. He told Bleacher Report, "Why not use the internet to make money? Why not use it to spread your name?" So Danhausen has used this free tool, or whatever, and followed in the footsteps of Zack Ryder, who really hammered home the use of the internet to get his name out there and make fame and money. Danhausen created several different series he distributed via his YouTube channel, Love That Danhausen, and his Patreon, including a cooking show and a talk show. He's also allowed his toy collection obsession to infiltrate his channel, posting unboxing videos and toy store visits. He has also joined Ethan Page on his Toy Hunt YouTube series and occasionally crashed Matt Cardona's videos too. There's an old adage, don't meet your heroes, but Danhausen did, and it thankfully worked out for him. In an appearance with the Not Sam Wrestling podcast with Sam Roberts, Sami Zayn came up in their conversation, and Danhausen said,
That's probably Danhausen's favorite superstar in the WWE.
Danhausen told Chris Van Vliet about an encounter with Zayn at an Evolve show, where Danhausen asked for Zayn's advice.
He's like, do the bad ones, do the good ones. He's like, but the bad ones are kind of as important as the good ones because that's where you're going to learn them. You're going to learn the most.
Danhausen said Zayn's advice led him to take a chance on working shows for the 1920s themed old wrestling, which led to his current goofy persona.